Good morning, boys and girls. How are you today? I hope all of you are healthy. Are you ready for today's lesson? Yeah, we're going to review about our previous lesson, the story in Marah and Manna. Before we discuss about the story, let's watch the video together.
Had water problems too. The joyful celebration on the banks of the Red Sea was over. The pillar of cloud began to move again. The Israelites knew it was time to move on, so they followed the cloud into the desert. For 3 days, they traveled without finding water. The water they had brought with them was gone. They had to find more if they were to stay alive. The cloud led them toward Marah, where they expected to find a spring. Moses herded sheep in the wilderness for 40 years. He knew the place well. He knew the water at Marah was bitter and not fit to drink. But the Lord had led them to this place. Just as Moses expected, at the first sight of the water, the joyful cry went up, "Water! Water!" Men, women, and children rushed to the spring, but as soon as the first of them tasted it, their joy turned to disappointment. It had been just 3 days since the Lord had worked a miracle at the Red Sea. Just 3 days since he had destroyed the entire Egyptian army. It had only been a few days since they had left Egypt and their lives of slavery. God himself in the pillar of cloud had led them to Marah. But they forgot all of that. "What are we going to drink?" they grumbled to Moses. Moses did what the Israelites did not do. He turned to the Lord for help. The Lord showed Moses a piece of wood and told him to throw it into the water. Moses did, and the water became sweet. And then imagine how the people rushed forward to the water. They had gone from joy at finding water to disappointment after tasting it. Now they were back at joy after God worked the miracle. They were no longer in danger of dying of thirst. They had been saved.
How's the video? Is it helping you to remember the story? Yeah, at that time the Israelites were out of Egypt. Yeah, and then they went through the wilderness. Do you know what is wilderness? On Facebook page 27, you can read it at home. Wilderness is land that is generally uninhabited by man, so nobody stay or build their place in the wilderness. Yeah, it's usually used by nomadic people for the herding of their flocks, so it's only for herding of their flocks. Why do the people not building their house in wilderness? Because in the wilderness offer a little resources, yeah, for the people. For example, a little water. Yeah, it's very difficult to find water in the wilderness because there was a little rain. It's also stated there. Now, Israelites also experienced the same. Yeah, they ran out of water because they walked for 3 days. They ran out of water, and then they, of course, sure, they feel thirsty. And then until they arrived in a place called Marah. There was a pond. They thought that, yeah, finally I got the water. They tried to take it and they tried to drink it, but I cannot drink it because the water is bitter. Can you drink bitter water? I don't think so. Yeah, it's different with coffee. Yeah, if coffee, you still have a little bit sweet from the from the sugar, but this water is bitter water. That you cannot sorry, you cannot taste it, you cannot drink it. What do you think the Israelites do? They complain. They didn't ask help from God, but they complained to the leader. Who is the leader? Moses. They complained to Moses. They said, better if we just stay in Egypt, although we live as a slave, but we still can drink rather than we die in the wilderness. So what do you think Moses do? Moses pray. Moses pray to God, ask help from God. And what happened? God shows Moses a tree. And then God asked Moses to take the tree and throw the tree on the water. And miracle happened. The water turned into sweet water. The Israelites are happy. They were so happy. They feel thanks, and then they drink a lot of water to wash away their thirst. Yeah, they say, thank you, God, thank you for help us, thank you for save our life, thank you for give us sweet water. They are so very happy. And then after that, after they drink a lot of water, and they also put some of the water into their water bottle, yeah, and they continue their journey. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees. So they came there to get plenty of water. Now actually the one that we can learn from this story is you cannot complain first. Yeah, different. Yeah, the response between Israelites and Moses is different. When facing difficulties, Israelites will look back in the past and then they will complain. But if Moses faced difficulties, Moses pray to God and ask help. Which one give the solution? Moses, yeah, because Moses pray to God, listen and obey and trust God, then God send help. So in your life, rather than you complain if you face difficulties, better if you follow Moses, pray to God, ask help to God, and God will send help for you. Yeah, that is the first review. Now we will continue to the second one, the story of Manna. Let's watch the video first.
When the Israelites had been traveling in the desert for several weeks, the food they had brought with them from Egypt was almost gone. There were no grocery stores in the desert. There were no fields or trees to get food from either. Instead of trusting God, the Israelites began complaining and grumbling. God knew that they were worried, and God knew that they were hungry too. He knew they needed healthy food to keep them strong. So God told Moses that he would send them bread from heaven that night. In the morning, thin, white flakes lay on the ground all over the camp. The Israelites had never seen anything like it. "What is it?" they said to one another. "It's the food the Lord has given you to eat," said Moses. "Taste and eat." This special food tasted like crackers and honey. The people called it manna, which means, "What is it?" Then Moses said, "Each morning you will find manna on the ground. Get up early and gather enough for the day, but do not keep any overnight." But some people didn't listen to Moses. They tried to save some manna for the next day. The next morning their manna was spoiled and it smelled really bad. Some people were lazy and did not gather enough for the whole day. But the hot sun melted the manna, and those people went hungry until the next day. On Friday, Moses told the people to gather enough manna for 2 days, because God would not send manna on Sabbath. But some people didn't listen to Moses. On the other nights, the manna had spoiled, so they thought it would spoil on Friday night too. But it didn't, and on Sabbath, no new manna appeared on the ground. By the end of the first week, everyone knew that they had to follow God's directions. As long as they gathered enough manna for the whole day every morning, they had enough to eat. And on every Friday, they had to gather enough for 2 days. When the Israelites followed God's directions, they had fresh food every day. God took care of their needs, and God takes care of our needs.
Now again, the Israelites find the second difficulties, which is ran out of food. Yeah, in the wilderness, as you know, that you cannot find a store or a shop to buy food. Yeah, that's why they ran out of food. And then again, they didn't ask help from God. They didn't pray, but as usual, they are look back in the past, complaining to Moses and said again their word. Yeah, it's better for us to stay in Egypt, although we live as a slave, but we will not die in the wilderness because of starving. Yeah, they keep complaining about it, and then Moses prayed. Moses asked help from God, and you know why? Thanks God, our God is faithful. Why? Because from the beginning, when the Israelites out of Egypt until now, God didn't left them. God is faithful. When He promised to us Israelites, He will fulfill His promise. And then God sent help. What is the help from now on? Manna, special food from heaven. If you look on Facebook, on your Facebook, on page 31, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on the 5th paragraph here, thin sweet flakes were covering the ground. Yeah, the Israelites taste the flakes and discovered that the food was very different from anything they ever tasted before. It tastes very good because God provided. Yeah, so in the morning, God sent manna early in the morning, and in the evening, God sent quail. So they will have quail for the dinner. It's kind of bird, yeah, so they can eat meat for dinner. In the morning, God said that they have to collect the food. They have to collect manna enough for 1 day. Yeah, enough for 1 day. But later on the day 6, yeah, you can collect twice, for day 6 and for Sabbath day. So on Sabbath you do not need to work. God thinks about it in details. Yeah, and at night God said, do you think God loved them very much? Yes, indeed. But still, some of them disobey. Some of them want to try, disobey God's rule. They collect manna more, yeah, rather the one that they need. Yeah, they collect more, and what happened? The manna spoil, rotten, and they cannot eat it. The one that we learn from this story is God provide the food for Israelites. God will also provide food for us. If you find difficulties, your parents find difficulties, maybe sure, pray to God, ask help, and God will provide what you need. Yeah, based on what you need. So if you have food, be thankful for that. There are a lot of people who have maybe only a little of food, but if you have food, please be grateful. That shows God providence. Yeah, God provide you. Although, for example, the menu is always the same, you need to still be grateful. Yeah, that is God's blessing for you. And the second one that we can learn from the story, God is faithful. He always faithful and always accompany Israelites and always accompany us. The third one, I don't think that you can disobey. Yeah, try to see. We can learn from the Israelites who disobey. They collect more and it's rotten. Don't be too greedy. Yeah, try to obey what is God's command. I think it's enough for today. Hopefully you remember the story and you can apply the lesson in your daily life. God bless you.